It's the official Catchup podcast. I'm here back 3 weeks in a row, and we are here as always to talk about everything happening in non-league football within the, I guess what we're calling the Lowland League territory. I think we had this discussion a few weeks back. We'll call it the Lowland League territory from now on, and that's where we're always here to talk about. And I'm joined as ever by Chris. Chris, how you doing?
Yeah, not bad. Busy as usual, obviously with football on the brain. My head's been fried the last few days. But no, just keeping up with everything obviously that's going on, and obviously the catch up, looking at results and seeing who's performing, seeing what the shocks are, and whatever else. A few derby matches this week in the Lowland and East of Scotland, as well as some cup games as well. So we've got a bit of everything today, Ben.
Absolutely, loads of football to talk about, and we'll start where we always start, the Lowland League. And first game to come up to talk about today, Cali Braves 1, Bowness United 2. Bowness back to winning ways, Chris.
Back to scoring goals. I think we talked about it. They were on such a goal drought. What was it? Just over 300 minutes of no goals. Yeah. Lucas Stenhouse obviously breaking the duck in the 25th minute in that game, with Kyle Johnson scoring the winner in the 8th minute. And I think it was just a consolation for Cali Braves at the end with Bredner. We kind of talked about Bowness and whether they were on a bit of a losing streak. Obviously, not scoring goals is a big issue if you're trying to win games. But they've done a really good result. But in fairness, against a Cali Braves team that has been struggling, so I wouldn't look too much into that. But I mean, it's good to get obviously the monkey off your back of losing games and not scoring. So Bowness will be delighted with that. Cali Braves, yeah, I think we touched on it last week, obviously, and there was other teams that around them that did get results this weekend. So it's a wee bit more worrying for Braves, but Bowness are a quality side, and I'm sure they'll hope to push on again.
Yeah, I think it's tough for Cali Braves at this point in time. They don't seem to really kind of get anything at the moment. They obviously got a win last week, a couple of draws, but they can't get any sort of kind of real run going. And I think that's the thing you look at. I think we're starting to see a gap slowly forming in the bottom teams, which maybe gives them a bit of solace down the bottom there. 5-point gap between Grenna and themselves. Now they'll maybe take a bit of positive that they've got a bit of breathing space now, because I think we were looking at it, they're thinking maybe they could have 4 teams in that bottom part of the kind of relegation battle. But I think we're looking at it, it's going to be that kind of 2-horse race we expect, which we always kind of did at the start of the season. But I think for Bowness, it's one of those ones that you see the bright start they had to the season. I think then kind of expectations were probably not as high as they would have been thinking, but to be sitting 5th at 9 games into the season for them, and haven't had a good run and then kind of ongoing that sticky spell, but getting back to winning ways on Saturday, it's going to be good for them. But as long as they can build on it, that's the key thing for me. If they can go and build on that next week's game, then great. But obviously we'll see what happens there. Next game then, Civil Service Draws 3, Commonwealth Colts 1. A good win for Civil, given how well Commonwealth Colts have started, Chris.
Yeah, a game of 2 halves, I believe. Colts were leading at the break through Stephen O'Neill, but Innes Lawson, who we've often talked about in this podcast, gets a double in the second half, and I think Chris Impunza scored an absolute peach of a goal. I think we often talk about how Christie Gillis Park can really be a troublesome ground for some teams, obviously with the grass and the Lord of the Rings adventure walk to get there to the pitch. I know a lot of teams don't like going there, which is a benefit to civil service strollers, obviously, because they love taking advantage and being at home, playing on the grass, and it's a different surface compared to a lot of teams in this league, and they do really well, I think, strollers on their own turf. And yeah, disappointing for Cumbernauld Colts. The run's kind of ended again, but I still believe they'll pick up points here and there. I don't think it will be doom and gloom like it was with Bowness for so long. Civil, you mentioned it last week, mate. Quietly going about their business as they do. They're often always a top half team, so no shocks there.
Next game then, Cowdenbeath 2, Galliferdine Rovers 2. Another good I'd say a good point for Cowdenbeath, given where they were at last year. They're still kind of playing against some decent sides. Galliferdine Rovers have been on a good run. Jamie Semple had been scoring goals for fun almost with Gala, but certainly decent result for Cowdenbeath. Going to give them where they're at just now.
Yeah, Gala, I think they've improved the last sort of few games, as we've mentioned. I tell you what, it was a tough one for Cowdenbeath because they took the lead fairly late on. Adam McDonald in the 85th minute, he probably thought he won it, but Danny Galbraith, the tallies man, if you will, for Gala, I think in stoppage time managed to get the equaliser. So 2-2, really decent game, I think, between two good sides, I would say, this year. Obviously, Gala, we have mentioned that they kind of struggled early on, but in fairness to them, I think they were playing some of the better sides. So I guess there was a couple of results in there I think they probably could have done better. But one thing we've probably not mentioned about Gala is it's a lot of a changed squad compared to last season. Again, we've said about teams losing their mainstays and stuff. Gala were certainly one of them, minus a few bodies here and there. But yeah, so we have to give them a wee bit of benefit of the doubt there. But Cowdenbeath as well, obviously, pretty much a changed lineup for Cowdenbeath, albeit one that's probably higher rated, but decent draw for both teams, I would say, given recent results.
No, definitely. I think I like what Gala are doing personally. I think the addition, like I say, of Jamie Semple's been great. I didn't see an awful lot from Jamie last year at Broomhill that I really thought he's going to be a player for Gala. I did find the move a wee bit strange, but certainly he's there. He's in form. He's scoring goals, and I think he'll be key to Gala's success this season. If they keep him scoring, keep him fit, then Gala could, I think, do pretty well. Cowdenbeath, I think they're still in that kind of, I guess, that transition kind of period under a new manager, and Callum Elliott. I think they've got a good guy at the reins there in terms of he knows how to win, he knows how to succeed at this level, and I think for me that they've got to stick with him. I think we've seen that in the past with Cowdenbeath, is that they get a wee bit flappy and start to see guys walking out the door or resigning and things like that. But we I think, got to trust Callum and give him the time to maybe build something here. I think they'll probably need to take a couple of years to do that. I think he can as well. So it'll be interesting to see how Cowdenbeath go for the rest of the season. Next game then is Edinburgh Uni 0, East Stirlingshire 3. East Stirlingshire will just be glad to get a win, Chris. It's been the first one in 4 games or something like that now. So they've struggled, I think, big time this year. We've talked about Edinburgh Uni plenty in this podcast. We probably don't need to dwell on them too much. But from a Shire perspective, it's after a couple of draws, it's nice to get the result.
Yeah, Luke Rankin hat trick. I think Luke Rankin, that is always the statement on Twitter. The boy is on loan from Alloa Athletic, I believe, 18-year-old forward. I guess we never really talked about it in depth because we kind of haven't really talked about Shire other than the fact that that things seemed positive going into the season, but obviously results weren't coming. But it does seem like they've added a key ingredient there. I think they were missing a bit of an out-and-out forward, a goal scorer, and Luke Rankin might be that player for them. Yeah, obviously, hat trick is great. One thing I will say about Shire, and I think I've mentioned it before, but they seem to really know how to develop these type of players. Every time there's a lone player that comes to Shire, they always seem to kick on and do well. So I don't know if it's just playing at Falkirk Stadium or what it is, but yeah, the loanees always seem to do well at Shire. But I think it's one of those ones for Shire. They've had it so many times where they've don't fall in love with a lone player. So they've had so many decent lone players over the last few seasons that I think it'll be hard not to fall in love with a player like Rankin if he's going to be doing that every week. Fantastic win for Shire. Edinburgh Uni, not really got much to say on them. We'll have to wait and see again. They're not doing well, but it'll be a gutting defeat in the sense that it was against a team that's kind of at the bottom with them. So similar, obviously, with Cali Braves. So it's gutting, but not much to say really. Again, it's a wait and see, and these are the type of games that I would say that Edinburgh Uni really need to try and get something for if they're going to be, trying to get out of that relegation zone towards the end of the season.
Yeah, I think West Shire's perspective is probably quite similar to Cowdenbeath in the sense of new manager come in, new bunch of players, and trying to maybe develop, say, that squad and build something. Which again, Shire, another team in that kind of bracket of being up in the SPFL leagues and have come down in Lowland League and found it a little bit tough up maybe in the Lowland League for the past few years. I think Cowdenbeath are absolutely the same in that respect, and Albion Rovers probably slightly different at this point in time. We don't know an awful lot about Albion Rovers because they're playing in cup competitions and things, so they've not played as many league games. They're probably sitting at that kind of false position in the table just now. But certainly, I think East Stirlingshire have to get the finger out because they don't want dragged in there. Like we were saying, I think there is a gap between the teams now, the bottom two, but it only takes one of them teams to find a bit of form, and then they're dragging everyone back in, because if the other teams aren't getting results, then it's a case of we'll all get pulled in there. And the last thing a team like Shire wants to get relegated. No one wants relegated, but I think where Shire believe they are and feel they should be kind of further up the leagues and haven't been there before, they're still kind of feeling about that, I think, from what I see. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out over the next few weeks and months for Shire. Next game then, Gretna 2008 0, Berwick Rangers 1. I guess from Berwick, from Gretna's perspective, as positive as a result you could probably get. They didn't ship 5, 6, 7 goals this week, so I think that's a positive for Gretna. They obviously managed to shut the back door a little bit more than they're used to. Berwick, again, another team kind of going about their business a little bit quietly. Mixed bag of results, but doing okay, sitting mid-table, probably where we expect Berwick to be. I think Berwick are a mid-table side in the Lowland League, and that's where they'll be probably for a few years. And certainly, they'll be pleased to get the win on the board.
I'd love to see the highlights for this game because apparently it was action-packed. There was 3 disallowed goals. Liam Buchanan missed a penalty. Liam Buchanan obviously got the winner, the only goal in the game, but it's a bit unlike him to miss from the spot. And in fairness to Berwick, they did say that they weren't sure what their penalty was for, but I did hear that Gretna were aggrieved towards the end because they should have had a penalty. So it's a game with a lot of action. I guess they were kind of hyping this up as the border derby. For me, in the Lowland League, the border derby is always going to be Gallifreydine versus Vale of Leven. Obviously, Vale are not in the league anymore, so I guess that can probably replace that. But it did seem like an action-packed game. I'm guessing, but I've not seen the highlights, unfortunately, so I can't really comment too much. But from what I've heard, the deserved win for Berwick, albeit Gretna will be a wee bit disappointed not to get the point, especially considering they might have had a penalty towards the end, I believe, for a handball. But until I see the highlights, I'm not sure. I can't really call it, but I mean, if you've got disallowed goals in there and a missed penalty, Berwick will feel that should have been done and dusted for them anyway. So. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to see the highlights for that.
The final game on Saturday was Hearts B 3, Broomhill 2. As we talked about, Hearts B look a good outfit this season, Chris. We thought probably a bit more, of Broomhill in the sense of they would be top half. I think they still will be. They obviously coming off a win against Civil in the midweek. But Hearts B absolutely looking the real deal at this point in time.
Yeah, we've talked about the likes of Bobby McCluckey and Callum Sandilands, Mackenzie Kirk, all these sort of top players. But the player to make a real difference in that game was James Wilson, who I believe is like 16. He's a forward and he got 2 in that game. And when you've got a young team like that and you can bring in these sort of young quality players, James Wilson was never a player on my radar for that Hearts B side, and he's came in and absolutely done the business against let's face it, a professional and physical Broomhill side. I'm not surprised it was close, but to get in there, I think Hearts B have got to be delighted. But I don't think we've talked a lot about the manager, but I really rate Liam Fox. I think he's doing a fantastic job. I know a lot of people were talking him up to possibly be the Hearts manager for the senior side, and I did see a lot of backlash of the reshuffle of Stephen Naismith still being the manager and whatever else. I guess the what are we saying, a coalition management. There was a lot of Hearts fans unhappy with it. So
it was odd, wasn't it? It was very odd. It was like Stephen Naismith was like, was it technical director or something? That Frank McAvoy was the manager, and then as soon as Hearts get papped out this UEFA Cup, it reversed to Stephen Naismith being the manager.
Yeah.
I think he always was the manager, but
yep.
Due to some qualifications or lack of qualifications, I think, which I find actually quite strange, to be honest, about Stephen Naismith, given he's been out of the game for a few years now. I thought he'd have been well on track to get his badges. He obviously will qualify into a certain level of badge because he's the level of football he's played at. But yeah, very strange. And Liam Fox, obviously having been the manager of Dundee United, first team and into the Hearts B setup, which is an interesting one because you probably think these guys normally go to kind of will maybe bounce around kind of Championship, League One, League Two when they come out of a Prem job like that. But for Liam Fox, it's into Hearts B and kind of that youth development role, which maybe what suits him. Maybe find that the first team management's not quite for him, but he's getting the opportunity there in the Hearts B setup. But he's also kind of able to do that development side, which it looks like he is doing very well from what we've seen of Hearts B. They're night and day from what we saw last season, and he looks like potentially that Liam Fox is the difference. And I think Hearts B are the team that are going to probably push East Kilbride to this point in time. I think you look at Trent, they've still got a few games in hand, and they've potentially got a number up beyond that. I mean, Cumbernauld Colts are up there just now, but will they have the legs to last the pace? I'm not 100% sure about that, but Hearts B very well could be, and then we could be in that position of a B team winning the league, and then we've got the whole champion club scenario to come back round the table again. So that could make it interesting. But I mean, we'll come on to East Kilbride just shortly. But for me, they're the real deal at the moment. So we'll see how that plays out. That rounds up the Saturday fixtures. There was a few games that played during the midweek. We'll quickly run through the results of those. Cumbernauld Colts 1, East Stirlingshire 1, Stirling Uni 2, Albion Rovers 2, Berwick 2, Hearts B 2, Broomhill 4, Civil Service Strolls 2, Cali Braves 4, Gretna 0, Cowdenbeath 0, Trinent 2, Galliford Rovers 2, Edinburgh Uni 1, and Linlithgow Rose 2, East Kilbride 2.
Well, we better give a mention to Cammy Ross since we've been talking about him. He's top scorer, obviously, in the league. I've been having a bit of a banter with him, obviously, about being in the team of the month. He's not featured yet, but certainly he's got a high chance this month, I would suggest. Given I tell you what, he's been the most potent threat for Trinent since the start of the season. But he's a great player. So when I saw the move, obviously, when he moved to Trinent, I thought that's a great signing. So we all like Cammy. But yeah, I believe he is doing it all just to get into the catch of the team of the month. He'll probably fall off after he's appeared. So I'm only kidding.
That's absolutely a driver for Cammy. Yeah. But yeah, it's nice to get the midweek games in as well for the league. Somebody to look at during the week and find catch up what's going on. I think the one result that probably stands out for me in that midweek, Chris, is that draw between Albion Rovers and Stirling Uni. We were we're still trying to find our feet where Albion Rovers are, and Stirling Uni not having started probably as well as we would have hoped. We've managed to pick up a point against Albion Rovers.
They're going to be seeing each other again in the Scottish Cup very soon, which will obviously be on TV, which is going to be a good occasion for both clubs. But I did see a comment, obviously. I would rather these sort of cup occasions happen between teams in different leagues. It's just the way I am as well. But it will highlight, hopefully, the quality of the Lowland League for anyone that's unaware. Because Albion have been really impressive. Stirling Uni, I think we mentioned it. They're not the same Stirling Uni that we had last year, but they've still got a really good group of guys. I think some of the younger boys will eventually step up and be players that can potentially move higher up in a few years. So it's an excellent programme, Stirling Uni, and Chris Geddes obviously gets loads of credit for the job he does. But yeah, I have faith in Stirling Uni, but I just don't think it's this year that they're going to be the main contenders of our praise, if you will, like they were last year. Maybe a struggle as well going forward. They'll be losing a few more seniors as well, but they really need the younger boys to step up, and I think a few of them have, which is good to see. But It's always a wait and see with Stirling, because potentially there could be a gem in there that they bring in also. So not much to say other than a decent result midweek, and I look forward to the cup game.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's one of those things that you find with the uni teams is that the teams can be anything. We've always said this about the teams. It depends on what players they can either attract to the uni, or the guys that maybe turn up at the uni and want to play football, and you end up getting a gem. You look at some of the guys that have turned up at Stirling Uni in the past and went back into league football and are playing elsewhere in the Lowland League, and very, very talented players. So probably they were very fortunate having that crop of players together at the same time and be able to build something with them. And they might be able to do that again, so depending on obviously how recruitment maybe would go. I don't know enough about kind of how it exactly works. I think they probably find that some players do get brought in to play football, and then there's some players that will turn up and pretty much at freshers we can say, oh, I played at this or I played at this level and want to get a game. So it could be anything. But it's good to see Stirling Union on telly. I'm looking forward to that. It's an interesting game to put on. I think you mentioned about you like to see teams in different leagues playing. I honestly looked at the draw. I mean, there's some nice ties in the draw, but I didn't see an awful lot that stood out from a TV perspective, Chris. I actually thought,
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised to see the BBC had skipped this one and maybe have two in the next round, like you kind of done with. I know the game with Pollock last season was kind of due to the Queen dying and stuff like that, I think it was, and the kind of game got postponed and all that kind of stuff, so it became a bit difficult. But there wasn't an awful lot that stood out for me in terms of TV. I think probably the one that did stand out selfishly would be Cowdenbeath and Linlithgow Rose, to see that both those teams play against each other, and all Lowland League tie. But beyond that, there wasn't a lot that really. So, because the last thing you want to watch is a team pumping someone 5-6-0 in a cup game. You want something that's a bit close, and it's going to be a game to watch for the neutral. And I think Stirling Uni Albion Rovers are probably a fair.
BBC want a narrative. You always know that they love the narrative. The narrative is obviously the Albion Rovers, the fallen giants, now playing in the Lowland League. Yeah, they played Stirling Uni last year. Blah blah blah. It's a good story. Don't get me wrong, but I mean, yeah. I think you're right. I think there was some games that I personally would have liked to see, but I do still believe that Stirling Uni Albion Rovers is a decent choice, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, they've had the Darvel thing obviously last year, which was excellent to see. Had the Cloudbank had like a decent run a few years past. Pollock kind of last year obviously involved too in the cup, and I guess Auchinleck are probably the team that have had it kind of first time round before we really had licensed clubs involved in the league. Then do you go to somewhere like kind of Brora, Berwick, that kind of game? So I think there wasn't a lot that stood out. And I know probably from a BBC perspective, they probably selfishly want to try and keep it central belt in the early rounds because they don't want to maybe travel a big crew and equipment and all that, because that obviously costs money, which I understand. Obviously, that they're as much a business as anybody else, and they've got to obviously make sure the pennies and the pounds work for the production, and that's just the nature of it. And I think obviously the other factor is as well, when you go to some grounds, they're maybe not catered for having live TV production as well, which I think that's a standout, and I think people just assume that you can pick a game that works for everyone, and because of whatever else. But there's got to be there's a lot of different factors that come into play. I had that kind of discussion last year with the BBC a couple of times about games, and that seemed to be not that either. I think the winning games are really of much interest to the BBC, really, but hopefully we can get a wee run in the Scottish Cup and maybe get that selfishly next season.
I was always jealous of the BBC when I saw them covering the women's football, because they've got like instant replays and they've got queues and everything. It's so much harder when you're doing a live stream yourself. You know this, Ben, and you've not got all the answers when someone's seen it on a stream and you've not got the replay. I mean, it's difficult, but BBC best everything, I guess, with their football coverage. So,
talking then, going back to Albion Rovers, we'll move on to the SPFL Trust Trophy that took place. There was a few teams playing in that, involved in the Lowland League. Albion Rovers lost 2-1 to East Fife, and Stirling Uni, as we mentioned, they lost 3-2 to Airdrie, and the other one was East Kilbride winning 4-1 against Edinburgh City. East Kilbride, the absolute surest bet on the coupon this weekend if you had one. I didn't have one, but if you were a betting person, because I know people get a wee bit upset when we talk about betting, but if you were betting at the weekend, certainly East Kilbride at 6-4 would have been an absolute kick in.
Was that the odds? Was it?
Yeah, massive. Yeah, it's like what I seen it on the list, and I was like, that's an interesting one. Yeah, straight into East Kilbride. Then Chris, East Kilbride are a legit football team and could do anything this season.
Yeah, I mean, we have seen the in the past, obviously, these sort of, I guess, highly rated non-league teams beat SPFL opposition, and it's not surprising that East Kilbride have went out and beaten Edinburgh City. I think the surprise is really the scoreline. I mean, would I thought it would have been that much? Probably not, but I mean, I do rate Edinburgh City, but they're a team that have obviously went through a fair few changes as well. But for East Kilbride to go to Meadowbank and do that, it's a big eye opener, because I mean, obviously, when you're talking about these big cup upsets or well, upsets in inverted commas, I guess, but it's usually at the home. You know, at Darvo, it was their home ground against Aberdeen. Whether they could have done it at Pittodrie, I'm not sure, because obviously you've got the big support there. Not saying that Edinburgh City have a massive support of that, with all due respect to them, but yeah, it's different when you're away from home, and I think that's what surprised me, the fact that it was an away fixture, and East Kilbride have really done Edinburgh City there in terms of the result.
Yeah, I think for me it was as I say, it was absolute sure fire thing in East Kilbride, a team that could go up a fair distance in this competition. I'll say that now. They have absolute potential to be semi-finalists, finalists potentially. And
Trips to Northern Ireland, yeah.
Potentially, yeah, absolutely. I think a lot is possible. I'm going to say it, and I think we've spoken a lot about Mick Kennedy as a manager, and I think the thing that's starting to stand out for me is Mick Kennedy is a legit football manager and very good at what he does.
Oh, yeah.
People will say, "Oh, but he's got money and he's had money. He's always been able to build squads." But I think the thing you can do, you can buy the players you want, but you've got to make them better play. And it looks like, from what we've seen so far of East Kilbride, he's absolutely able to do that.
Did we mention the criticism of Cy Ferry this week? There was a slight criticism.
Oh, yeah.
I saw a clip.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Yeah, that's definitely worth a comment.
Yeah, he was talking to one of the agents to try and get I can't remember the former Rangers.
Robbie Ure,
yeah, obviously signed for Anderlecht Futures, I think. And I was thinking to myself, Cy was moaning like hell that he had to do that at Broomhill. He really was moaning in the documentary that, I shouldn't be phoning agents and trying to get players in. But I think the difference is different when you're winning and it brings happy, isn't it? Really, you're happy to do that, I guess. But then again, I suppose, yeah, in fairness to Cy, he's in a different role. He's not the manager; he's the assistant manager. So maybe he's quite happy to take on that task. But I did think it was that's one thing that went through my brain. Like, oh, you were moaning like fuck when you were doing it last year with Broomhill, but now it's all gravy, isn't it?
I love the optimism that he thought he was going to be signing Robbie Ure. That's the thing I think about that video as well, is the fact he thought it.
He's called Bride or Anderlecht.
Yeah. Not sure. I think
you'll be on a fair amount of Anderlecht as well, you know. So,
but it's funny. But I guess from Cy's perspective, he probably is in a different role, a bit more. Yeah, it can be a bit more laid back and leave a lot more to Mick. You know, it's. But yeah, I think from what I was just saying, I think Mick absolutely. Very capable manager, and I don't know, maybe if Michael Beale does get the sack from Rangers, he's maybe going to be looking at the Rangers job. Don't know.
Mick Kennedy? Oh, come on, he's a Celtic man. What are you talking about?
Is he? I don't know.
Did you not know he was a Celtic fan?
Nah, it's just a joke, because every time something comes up in it, he gets linked with a job somewhere else. Any job higher up, he's always getting linked with something, you know.
To be fair, I think there's a part of me that believes that you have to be a Celtic man to support East Kilbride. Like, it's a bit like Albion Rovers. There's so many Celtic supporting players and fans or whatever over over the last few years. So
wasn't aware of that connection, but certainly, yeah. No, I think it'll be funny to see that.
Come on, Baz Russell, Sean Winter. Come on, guy. Come on, Ben. Get with the programme.
Fair enough. I'll take note on that basis, and then we'll move on to the East of Scotland Football League. As Chris mentioned earlier on, there was a number of derbies that took place in the East of Scotland League. The results as follows: Inverkeith and Hillfield Swifts 3, Broxburn 7, Crossgates Primrose 0, Hillabeath Hawthorns 3, Dunbar United 2, Haddington 1, Glenorthus 2, Dundonald Bluebell 4, Canoe 1, Jeanfield Swifts 5, Cloncarty 0, Socky Juniors 5, Musselburgh Athletic 6, Pennycook Athletic 2, Tynecastle 0, Hutchison Vale 1. Start off with that first game then, Chris. Broxburn and Inverkeith and Hillfield Swifts 7-3 for Broxburn.
Yeah, the Brox have been doing the business lately, I must admit, and it's such a... I think we might have covered this last week, but East of Scotland's really, really, I guess, really bipolar at the moment in terms of results. There's Hillfield Swifts, obviously, have had some really good results this season, and now they've been absolutely outdone by Broxburn. I think there's another result in there that we'll probably talk about as well that it's just so strange. But yeah, I think everyone for Broxburn's doing the business. Guys like Callum Heath, Gary Brass, the goalkeeper Rob Watt, I think's doing really well since moving from Pennycook. I think he's had a few clean sheets as well. Obviously not in yesterday's game, but yeah, Broxburn are looking strong. Whether they can sort of keep it up in terms of momentum, whether they can be that top team, I'm not sure. I think there's other top teams that we often mention, Jeanfield, for example, that who I believe they're playing quite soon in September in a few days. I think next week or something. So yeah, that'll be an interesting game if they can get a result there. I think that kind of puts forward their aspirations to be a contender in this league. Yeah, Hillfield Swifts, they're so odd. They're so odd. I mean, when you're not expecting them to get results, they do. When you're expecting them to get results, they don't as well. So it's very odd. A very odd league, a very hard league to cover at the moment, the East of Scotland Premier.
Elsewhere again, Goalfest here at Musselburgh. Musselburgh 6, Pennycook 2. Good win for Musselburgh. They're a team, again, kind of going about their business a bit quietly, sitting kind of in that kind of top kind of half or fourth as it is just now, and they certainly look like a good side. But like we said, we don't really know what's going to happen because there's like a Serendies League at the moment, and I think we rate Pennycook quite highly, Chris, but it's certainly a great result for Musselburgh.
Yeah, I mean, 6-2. It's one of those ones again where Pennycook have conceded quite a lot of goals, but Musselburgh, we talked about it a few times. They've been scoring a lot of goals recently. Obviously, we've talked up Grinchy, Craig Stevenson. I think he was on the score sheet again. Smith got a double as well. So Nathan Evans, I think, opened the scoring in the first minute. I think they were 3-0 up within, the first 10 minutes, which Pennycook are just probably looking like this game's lost already, and that's probably why you've got a sort of wayward scoreline, if you will. And Nathan Evans scored after 36 seconds, I should say. So that's probably one of the fastest goals. Pennycook, a lot of settling to be done there in terms of the squad. Obviously, a new manager, Lewis Colt. I find it difficult to talk about them because the thing with Pennycook is they always had a really strong squad. This year, I feel they probably will take a bit of a decline of being that top team or one of the top teams, but I think there's hope there for the future. But everything that's went on sort of behind the scenes over the last sort of few seasons has not been great for the club. They lost a lot of players. One who I mentioned, obviously, Bob Watt, who went to Broxburn. So they have lost a lot of these key players to their divisional rivals, if you will. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
While we're talking about these, Chris, I'm making my trip to Fife in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, I might see you, actually. I might go to that game just
nice.
to finally say hello and whatnot and see you. I did wonder if you were going to go to that. It's just a one train stop or two train stops away from me. So, hopefully a bit of a catch-up meet-up. And
I'll be there. Lauren will be probably about, 3 3 weeks to till the baby's born, pretty much. So she'll be kind of at the point where it'll be kind of getting a wee bit close, but she's going to come along and we're going to have a day out and 5, get some food and stuff like that and just come through for the day. Got a team bus going through and supporters bus already kind of planned to come through as well. So looking forward to a nice enough wee trip to Fife, if you can say that. I don't know if you can say you get a nice trip to Fife, but
God, it's no St Andrews, mate. That's what
I am gutted. I am. Auchinleck got that draw, man. So Auchinleck got the draw to St Andrews United, and I was well gutted. I was like, that would have been ideal. Would have been able to go a nice wee spa. I could have had a wee weekend, and yeah, but we'll be through. It'll be interesting to see how Dundonald are. I don't know a lot about them personally, so I know they're kind of started the season pretty well. They'll be a side that will be a tough game for us. I think last season we played Musselburgh. They're probably at a very similar standard to Musselburgh as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, I'll be looking forward to it. We've got Vale leaving next week in the South Challenge Cup, and then it's into Scottish Cup action. Hopefully get that result and then get through and then get into that second round like we did last season. But yeah, I love the Scottish Cup. That's the one bit about doing the football that really does excite me and gets me going. I think that's the one, and it's nice to get an away draw, I think, as well. I guess you always want the home draw for the money and the gate and stuff like that for your own fans, but nice to get a trip away and not too far. It wasn't quite like some of the madness that we've seen, the likes of going up to like the likes of Gene Field going to Wick, for example. We wouldn't fancy that at all if it was me, and especially at a time when I've got a baby on the way. But it's one of those ones that we're looking forward to. And we'll
one thing I will say about to Buffs fans is bring money, because I don't believe Dundonald are on fan base, unless you can get tickets obviously beforehand. But even at that, yeah, it's hard to get money around that sort of area. I think there's a one wee shop with a cash line that probably charges you like £2 to withdraw. So yeah, bring money, guys, just in case.
Bring money, Buffs fans, bring money. That's what probably the Dundonald committee want to hear as well, isn't it? Come money, bring money and spend it. You know, that's I
mean, the social club is right, and I say this probably yards away from the pitch, so if you're wanting a pint or whatever, you'll be more than welcome in the social club as well at Dundonald. So yeah, definitely bring money. I don't know if the social club takes card payments. I'm not sure about that, but yeah, that would be my one advice for Buffs fans.
Fair play. We'll keep that in mind.
The other derby, obviously, in the East of Scotland Prem was obviously Hillabeef beating Crossgates 3-0, which is an excellent result for Hillabeef. Just announced a new manager, obviously, Alan Moody. They've been struggling, Hillabeef, over the last few years, which is weird because they've had a really decent team, but for whatever reason the results haven't been great. I mean, if you know the history of Hillabeef, Jock Finlayson was the manager for from their foundation up until the last sort of few years, and it looks like they're trying to catch up other teams in terms of other managers now, because for whatever reasons it's not worked out. But Hillabeef, hopefully that gives a wee bit of stability to them, because they have always been in the juniors, obviously a really decent East Junior side. So, but they have struggled the last few seasons in East of Scotland Prem.
And one more to talk about in the first division was Arniston 1, Newton Grange Start 0. That was a local derby, was it, Chris?
I guess it's one of the more severe derbies, I would say. One of the more heated. Yeah, one of the more heated. So any time in that sort of region, I mean, you've got your obviously Bonnie Regs, your Pennycooks, who I don't think they're too fond of each other either in terms of Arniston and Newton Grange. But yeah, that's a big derby in the Lothian region, and yeah, Arniston beating Newton Grange, decent win. I think Niall Kemp got the goal. I think it was just on the just before half time. Probably an absolute gutting one for Newton Grange to lose that, but yeah, they seemed absolutely overjoyed at that victory, given the nature of the rivalry there. I think it's kind of, I guess you would consider in the West probably all these old ex-junior rivalries that have played each other probably a million times throughout their histories. And
moving on then to the South of Scotland Football League, there was only 2 games because they have
games,
team cup games, so it was Lochmaben 1, Abbeyvale 3, Nithsdale Wanderers 5, Upper Annandale 1. I mean, from our perspective, not a lot to write home about there. I think we probably expect Abbeyvale to beat Lochmaben and Nithsdale Wanderers, given where they're at this season and the improvements they made in their side. We've much talked about Mackenzie brothers coming back to play for Nithsdale. They're looking a pretty good side, and fairly straightforward win for both sides.
Yeah, I think the biggest talking point is actually in the cup. Obviously, Newton Stewart getting beating Lockhart Thistle 3-2. Newton Stewart, who have obviously started the season quite well, second in the division, and Mids taking Dalbeattie to extra time. 1-1, but Dalbeattie getting the result at Islecroft. The only other result there was St Cuthbert beat Stranraer 4-1, which is a really good result considering that St Cuthberts are at bottom of the league at the moment with 0 points, and well, to be fair, Stranraer only got 3 points as well, so two teams struggling, but a really good confidence building win in the cup there for St Cuthberts. But yes, South of Scotland is a wee bit harder for us to cover because we don't see as much coverage as you would in say a Lowland League or West of Scotland or even the East of Scotland. But we do try and do our best in terms of covering these games. But yeah, because there was only 2 results there, it's only fair to maybe throw in a few mentions for the cup there, considering obviously the excellent result for Newton Stewart beating Lockhart Thistle 3-2.
Moving on then to the West of Scotland Football League, and in the Premier Division, the results were as follows: Auchinleck 2, Atherley 2, Benburb 2, Troon 1, Cumnock Juniors 2, B Juniors 4, Glenafton Athletic 0, Gartcairn 1, Hurlford 1, Pollock 3, Meadow 1, Darvel 4, Kirkintilloch Rob Roy 0, Clydebank 3, Largs Thistle 1, St Cadoc's 1. I think we'll start with that Auchinleck game, Chris. Another disappointing result for Auchinleck.
It's almost every week that we're kind of looking at an Auchinleck result and thinking it's probably a wee bit disappointing for them. In fairness, Arthurlie have not been the whipping boys I thought they would be in terms of the start of the season. I think last week when I was talking about Benburb, I couldn't remember who I thought was going to get relegated, but I'm pretty sure it was Arthurlie that I mentioned because Benburb have started really well. I need to actually look back on that first episode already to see who I said, but
keep track,
yeah, keep track. And it's disappointing for Auchinleck. They're just not the same Talbot side that we've seen previously. It's difficult to really even... I don't want to give them too much stick because I feel like we've done that last year and then they came good. I think it's just a case for Talbot fans that hoping they come good. But to be at home at Beechwood and draw 2-2 to Arthurlie, I mean, that would have been unheard of in years past. Maybe an away result, but certainly not at home at Beechwood. But I don't want to talk about change even because we've talked about that. I feel like you could probably cut in a few bits from what we said last year about Talbot and put them in this year, but that's when the stick will come. That's when they'll turn it around. You can just never count out Talbot. At the end of the day, it's just a disappointing result to a disappointing start of the season, I would say.
I think I'll kneel my cross to the mast and just absolutely say that Talbot are in a bit of bother, and I think they've got to wake up and realise that pretty quickly that they are 15th in the table, and we know we're only 8 games into the season, but I think from experience, Kilwinning Rangers, we kind of walked into relegation a little bit, and we ended up where we are now, and Talbot are probably a situation now where they're just thinking about like kind of getting safe and getting mid-table perhaps, and I don't think they'll be looking at challenging. I think you look at the teams at the top end of that division, Beath, Pollock, Clydebank, even Darvel to a point, are miles front in terms of where Auchinleck are at just now. I think Auchinleck have had a pretty poor recruitment in the summer. I don't think they've, like we said it last week, they haven't replaced the guys that left in any sort of same calibre, and that's you're starting to realise that, and I think Auchinleck always seen as the kind of scalp, if you like, within the league, and any team will want to raise their game. But certainly, I think now you're not going to Beechwood Park, maybe worrying as much about Auchinleck because they haven't been able to replace those guys. Maybe don't have the same team as they had before. So it'll be interesting to see how Auchinleck play, how it plays out there. Tommy Sloan, you'll have enough credit in the bank now to see that job out if he wants to, and I think he will. And I think that's where they've got to do, is just stick with it and hopefully maybe make some signings from their perspective, get some bodies in. I think they're probably lacking a striker at least up front. I think Brian Boylan's the main man at the moment up there. I think he struggled at the season, didn't really play a few games at the start of the season. I think he's back in now and playing bits and pieces here. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how how it unfolds, but certainly it's an interesting one to watch.
I mean, 1-8, one win out of 8 games to start the season for Auckland, just like I mentioned, is unheard of. But yeah, I'm not going to be as harsh as you, Ben, because I know we were quite harsh on them last year. I'm not willing to put up with the stick if they turn it around, and I believe they can. And the reason being is because it's Talbot. You know what I mean? I know fans will have that same feeling. I suppose you're right in what you say. It can be dangerous to just think that without anything really happening in terms of bringing players in. But you're probably right. They need at least a striker in, someone that can get them goals. And in terms of chasing the league down, I mean, you're looking at Beeve at the top of the table there. 6 games. Everyone kind of below them has either played 7 or 8, and they're flying. You know, they've won 6 out of 6. They were my pick. Beeve are definitely the team to beat for me, and they've shown it so far in terms of winning every game and only conceding 4 goals as well. I think it's brilliant for them so far. But sorry, I probably spoiled that game a wee bit.
No, I mean that's that in terms of, I think straight onto that game, the Cumnock 2, Beith 4. Yeah, you mentioned the goals there and the not conceding. They conceded 2 yesterday, but that right up to that point they've only conceded 2 all season. They're a great side. We've mentioned Beef plenty in this podcast. We know what they're capable of. The recruitment has been pretty well. They've got guys in the door and managed to replace Josh Fowler, like we said the other week, and Kieran Diver, he's done well. Yeah, a great pickup from Chris Strange. So it's not to be unexpected from Beef now. Beef are a legit team in this division and will be contenders without doubt. Cumnock, on the other hand, again, in that similar sort of situation from Auckland League, went from winning the Junior Cup on last season to be down that bottom end, and will be looking over their shoulder now. I think that's the thing about Cumnock, is that it's so tight down that bottom end. They've got Irvine Meadow, bottom, 1 win and 7. Auckland League, like you mentioned, Glenafton, 2 wins and 7. Cumnock 2 wins and 6. You know, it's tight. And then even going further up, Gartcairn, Atherley, Troon, even Lags. I mean, there's 4 points splitting the bottom 9 sides at the moment, and that's the thing that stands out now. That division by no means is got a kind of relegation battling team, really. I mean, probably Irvine Meadow aside, I think they're in a bit of turmoil at the moment. Kevin Deaney's just left the club, looking for their 4th manager in 4 years, which isn't ideal for Meadow. Meadow don't look maybe like the attractive opposition, and I'm not saying that again before anyone comes at me as I hate the Meadow.
You're a better boss fan, aren't you?
I'm just talking about this as a football pundit, you know. It's not looking good for Meadow. They can't seem to get it right no matter what. But I think when you look at Meadow, they brought in guys from Whitlets who scraped safety last season in the 1st division, and they brought them in over the course of the season to Meadow and continue to do that in the summer, which I think obviously because the manager knew those guys and obviously trusted them to do a job, but it's not panned out that way. There's a lot of rebuilding to do for whoever goes into that job, and that could be a very difficult job. It's probably not the attractive kind of job that you'd want right now, in that sort of sense. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that one plays out. But I think the other one, when we're talking about down the bottom end, Glenafton, Chris, Ryan Stevenson, another manager who's vacated his role within Glenafton. They lost to Gartcairn at the weekend. Gartcairn, another team that were kind of again struggling, but certainly Gartcairn have probably got resources to be able to go out and buy players and get bodies in. I know they're very active and they're trying to find players and look like they're happy to spend some money to recruit boys in, which will be the big difference if you compare them to likes of probably Glenafton and Meadow. They do have money. There's no doubts about that. They can probably buy players if they want, but they're probably not a million miles away, Gartcairn, in comparison to the likes of Meda and even Cumnock and Glenafton. I think those three teams are in trouble with what the squads have got. I don't think they're really a great calibre of squad. And Auchinleck, just touched on them, they're the other team at the bottom.
Alan Cook from Broomhill went to Gartcairn, didn't he? So
he did, yeah.
They've definitely improved, obviously, on last year. And I think you're right. That's the difference with some of these clubs. I mean, you mentioned Irvine Meadow kind of going from, the below tiers to bring in players, whereas you get some clubs like St Cadix and Gartcairn going from above, and it's to expect these guys to step up. It's not impossible, but when you're getting former SPFL standard players against guys that have probably maybe not played as high as West of Scotland, First Division or whatever, it's a challenge. It really is a challenge. And there was a bit of a poll, actually, I noticed, more challenging the Lowland, the West Prem or the First Division. To me, the First Division is still the most challenging, considering just the gap between the sides in terms of the league. But no doubt about it, the West Prem is a challenging league. But I do believe there is certainly still a bit of a gap in quality between the top and bottom sides that you do see with the Lowland and some other leagues. Whereas in the First Division, I don't think it's as apparent, and I think that's why I would say that's the more challenging league, because I think it's a case of anyone can beat anybody on their day, rather than having maybe 3, 4, 5 teams that you expect to be at the bottom.
No, I definitely would agree with that. In terms of the Prem, Chris, top of the table, we've got Beath. They're sitting on 18 points. A couple of teams at the top getting results at the weekend. Pollock getting a 3-1 win against Hurlford. Hurlford, a team who started strongly, I think, in the league, but I think Pollock are the team that I think probably surprised me the most at the moment. I didn't expect an awful lot from Pollock at the start of the season. Wasn't too sure about some of the players that came in and how that was going to play out. I hadn't seen an awful lot from Pollock last season, certainly, either. But Max, he looks like he's recruited quite well in hindsight, and they're right up there. But it's one of those ones, you look at the teams like Pollock, can they catch Beath? Is the question that's always going to be asked. If Beath are going to be so good, I think that's the thing that stands out for me, is that have Pollock got it in them, have Clydebank got it in Clydebank, a team, again, talking about recruitment, recruited very well over the summer, got some good bodies in to improve what was already a strong squad. And I think both are going to be right up there, but have they got that extra step? That's the big question.
It was really surprising for me at the start of the season. Everyone was going for the likes of Darvel, but Pollock were a main talking point. Clydebank were a main talking point. And there was only one ever answer for me, and I went with Beath. And because they're a strong squad, I mean, we mentioned, obviously, Josh Fowler a lot last year. Me from very much the start of the season thinking that he could be as good as top scorer, and obviously he scored a bunch. But if you look at the squad, obviously guys like Andy Monk, Carlo Monti, the strength throughout that entire team is worthy of a champion squad and worthy of a team that's not been beaten in 6 games yet. And Clydebank and Pollock have good teams. Are they off the same standard of that? In my opinion, in terms of the players, I think it's difficult, because obviously if you look at Clydebank, they've got guys like Nicky Lowe and Nicky Little, and these are star players for any West of Scotland, even higher up teams. It's difficult, but since they won it last year, they have that drive for me to go out and win it again. And I don't know what's going to happen with the license stuff. Obviously, they can't really do anything at the moment in terms of the ground, because it's council owned or whatever the situation is. Pollock, again, another team that's recruited from higher up. You mentioned, obviously, the 2 lads coming in from Stirling Uni, Scott Forrester, who is always a standout defender for Cali Braves. They probably could be needing him, to be honest, currently. But Pollock are a decent side too. But yeah, I just can't, for whatever reason, I just can't see past Beath. I don't think there's much in terms of the quality between the sides, but I guess maybe it comes down to the manager. It maybe is that case. And I like Moff. I don't know. I think Straney's got a bit in between his teeth and since winning the league, and maybe that's the difference. Maybe a wee bit more drive.
I think you're right. I think there is that. I think you look at Pollock and Clydebank, you go, they have got a draw in them. That's the thing that stands out for me. Beeve look like a side that can win and win regularly. I've done it already so far this season with 6. Obviously done well in the Scottish Cup to get through into the next round, and are still all firing in cup competitions. They've got probably a nice draw for the next round of the Scottish Cup too, so they'll be firing all fronts, just like Clydebank and Port will be as well. But I think those 3 are the teams that to look at. I just don't going on to Darvel. I don't see enough from Darvel. I think it's not this. They're going about their business probably a bit more quietly. I think Darvel, which is probably a good thing for Darvel because they've been pretty loud over the last few years. You know, whether it's been cup runs or social media posts and from different people.
We talked about it, yeah.
It's been done. You know, it's one of those things that there's always plenty to say about for coming from Darvel, and I think this is probably a better way. I mean, even had it last week. I mean, still they had a bit of flag, but yeah, I think it'll be a good one to watch, and bottom end, top end are going to be certainly quite interesting for me over the next course of the season. I think the league will start to take shape properly come maybe Christmas, and then we'll get a feeling. Just I guess the Beeve fans, I hope you haven't put on the catch-up curse on them, Chris. I think we done it with Darvel last season, talking about Darvel as early front runners, and look how that panned out. So I think they'll be hoping you haven't.
To me, they're like the Linlithgow Rose, though. They really are. Not saying, probably not by much in terms of. I just see that. I don't know what it is about Beeve. I just think they're a really strong outfit. And maybe not to the extent that Linlithgow were last year, but I was really propping them up every week compared to other sides. Because as you mentioned, Pollock, Darvel, Clydebank, they're equally as good in terms of their quality. But I don't know. I just feel like there is something that makes me think Beeve, probably due to them winning it last year and been really, really good. So I don't think that's going to change from last year.
Well, that pretty much rounds it up for us on the official Catchup podcast for another week. You can get us on Twitter at the official Catchup. Get us on all your favourite podcast platforms. Give us hit us a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Same on YouTube. As I said before, it doesn't cost you anything. We do this for free. And it'd be nice to have the subscribers, have the likes, have the subscribes, because it reflects well on our podcast. And as I say, we'll be back hopefully next Sunday, as we always do, and talking about everything that happens. But until then, have a good one. Cheers.